This week on today's Homeowner, we're tackling a bathroom renovation that starts out basic and grows into something much more. And since it's my house, we'll all learn a few things along the way. So stay tuned. Hey, I wanted to show you this bathroom I just remodeled in my house. It's my youngest daughter's bathroom. It's also used by any guests that come to my house. And I'll tell you, I've been doing this for 30 years and remodeled a bunch of bathrooms. And, there was no problems with any planning or any decision making. Or, we finished right on schedule and everything worked out perfect. Not exactly. After a couple of years of casual negotiations between me and my youngest daughter, she persuaded me to do a little bit of work here in her bathroom. All she wanted was just a little bit of countertop space on either side of the pedestal sink for, hair dryer, makeup, and a few things like that. Well, it's hard to do anything to a pedestal sink like that that really looks good, so I thought I would remove this, put in a small vanity, problem solved. Well, not so easy. That's where my wife got involved and decided we needed a larger vanity that had a real furniture style to it with the legs and everything. In order to do that, I'm going to have to remove this cabinet that's been there for 20 years, tie in the crown molding, tie in the base molding, patch the floor. Now I've got to move the electrical fixture over, new mirror. Quite a bit of work all of a sudden has evolved out of a simple request, but it doesn't end there. Of course, we don't want to have this kind of finish on the plumbing fixtures, the valve and everything here in the shower and the tub. It has to match what we put in the new vanity for the faucet there. So I thought, well, I could just pull these handles off and replace that with something that matches. I found out that would be more expensive than replacing the valve itself. So to replace the valve, you can take off this part of the enclosure or go to the other side and access it through the drywall. Well, they solved that problem for me. Now we're removing everything and installing a very nice modern looking ceramic tub and shower alcove. And of course you can't do that and leave this old ceramic, so that's also being replaced. So what started out as a very simple request has turned into somewhat of a major bathroom remodel. But my little daughter's worth it. Cool, isn't it? Once this is removed, of course that's removed, then we can get a measurement on that. Okay. All right, that's 6 foot right there. You want smaller or bigger pieces?
Small.
Well, we have all of this ready for our plumber. He should be here anytime. We have everything scheduled so tight so that we can get this thing finished as quick as possible. But right now we have one of the other little odds and ends that we're having to deal with, and Mark's trying to figure out exactly how we're going to be able to patch this. Now, we knew when we took this cabinet out we'd have this situation. Fortunately, I held on to some of this wood when we did the hardwood floor a few years ago. What do you think? How much we're going to have to take out, Mark?
Well, I think we'll start with this one, get it out. And this one's got a joint in it back here. We take it out, take this one out. This is going to be the only one we may have a little trouble with because we don't want to remove all of them.
Right.
So we'll take a saw and cut this tongue out and get this board out. Cut this one off there and then just patch it back in.
Well, that's pretty lucky that we had these staggered in like this. Now, if this was a regular vanity, we wouldn't have a problem because the vanity would sit right on the ground right here and we wouldn't see any of these joints. But because it's a furniture type that has the legs, you'll be able to see under it a little bit. So that's requiring us to do all that kind of work. So shouldn't be hard. Why don't you take care of that and I'll start handling some of this electrical work. This floor is an engineered hardwood that was glued down to the concrete slab. And fortunately for us, not too well. So Mark can pry and tap the pieces loose. Where they're surrounded on two sides, they're cut to release the tongue and groove jointing. The two wall sconces will be replaced by a single centered fixture, so my first chore is figuring out which wire is the hot one from the switch, because it's the one we'll want to move to the new location, after it's turned off, of course. While I'm fishing wire through the wall, Joe has a simple solution that might speed up your next bath renovation.
A manual tile cutter is a great tool for cutting tile in half, whether it's porcelain or ceramic. The challenge comes when you need to trim off just a little bit of tile. In this case, you need to cut off about 3/4 of an inch, ½ inch, anything like that. And the problem is, if you look closely at this, you'll see that the little foot on here that snaps off the tile is overhanging. It's about 2 or 2½ inches wide, but on a narrow rip it overhangs. And if you score it and then try snapping it, what often happens is you end up with this. This is what happened earlier. You can see it's clearly scored the whole way, but it snaps off. And then you have this, which you'll have to break off with a pair of nippers or something else. Here's a much easier technique. Once you score it, snap the tile over here using this little wooden jig. It's simply a piece of 5/16 inch plywood sandwiched between a couple of 1x4s. Just tighten the clamps right on the cut line. Then just press down, and it should snap right cleanly right along that line. There you go. Nice and clean edge. These little, you can maybe trim that off with nippers if you needed to, but it's a nice clean edge, and you just install it and make as many cuts as you need right there.
This week we're renovating my youngest daughter's bathroom, and the project has rapidly expanded from its basic beginnings to a pretty involved undertaking. We've removed the old fixtures, tub surround, and flooring, and now the rebuilding has started with some wiring adjustments and a little patchwork on the wood floor in the vanity area of the bath. We're just about ready to get started on one of the larger aspects of this bathroom renovation, and that's installing the cement backerboard and all of the ceramic tile in this area. But first, we need a little plumbing. Artie, looks like you're all ready to go.
Prefabbed and ready to put in.
Now, my wife picked out this Moen tub shower valve because of the way it looks. She really loved the type of finish that we're going with, but understand we're getting a little something extra here.
Pressure balancing valve. Mostly required by code, but it is a nice feature. Keeps you from getting scalded in the shower.
Yeah, well, everybody loves that. Now, you've got copper here, but this had the old polybutylene. A lot of people are getting rid of that. How will you adapt all of this?
In this case, we're going to have to transfer it from poly to PEX, then to copper. And we'll use a copper installation in the wall.
So you're still having to use a type of crimp fitting and everything on there, but just one that's supposed to be a lot more superior than what this is.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And of course, the copper is superior to all of it.
Okay, all right. Now, what about the pipe going up to the shower head there? I know the shower head's a little loose.
Also going to replace that in copper too, Danny. It's just going to make a lot better setting than what you got in there now.
Because the offsets are a little different, not only does Artie have to remove the old valve and pipes, he also has to remove and reattach the blocking that supports them inside the wall so that they will be compatible with the new surround surface. Meanwhile, Mark is on the other half of the bathroom, cutting out the drywall around the plumbing that's there so the drain and water lines can be moved to the center of the wall to accommodate the new vanity. The new tub plumbing goes in place before Artie begins making the connections to the existing supply lines. This is where that PEX bridge he was talking about comes into play, between the old poly pipe and the new copper. Once he has everything connected, he moves on to the vanity so that we can start installing the cement backerboard for the tile surround. That cutout in the middle of the back wall will be a recessed shampoo and soap ledge, and after the backerboard goes on, this plastic pan fills the void. It's designed so that the tile can go right on top of it. Once the backerboard is complete, the joints have to be covered with mesh tape. This and the coating of thin set that will go on top of it will prevent any shifting that might result in cracked tiles or grout later on. So Mark, after my wife and daughter looked at all kinds of different tiles, this is what they ended up with for all of the wall area.
That's a real popular tile for floors and the walls.
Yeah, this should work pretty well. That's what happens so many times. People will go out and start looking at all the hundreds of different designs that are out there, and then they end up going back with something real common. But of course, they're going to complicate it a little bit and add a little design to it by taking these little pencil pieces and putting here, and then some glass material that we're using on the floor, and then another one right at the top. That should look pretty cool for the accent part. That'll go up to the, let's see, we'll go up 4 feet with it, so we'll go 4 tiles and then place that right on top.
Yeah, that's gonna look real good. What about our grout joints?
Well, she wants to tighten them up as much as we can. This has a slight bevel on it, so we'll just butt everything up tight. Maybe put some little toothpick spacers right in there to give it just a little bit of a grout joint, but I'm anxious to see this up on the wall. But first, we have to do one of the most important steps, is to waterproof all of the walls. Now, waterproofing may seem unnecessary because we're using stuff for the surround that will stand up well to moisture. But the tile and the grout that will go on top of this backer board are porous materials. So while they can tolerate moisture, it can also pass through them. And we don't want any moisture inside the walls where it can do damage or grow mold. Some people just put this stuff on the seams between the pieces of backer board. But the way I figure it, you have to buy a whole bucket anyway, use it up, and improve the level of protection. Mark also has to give the floor some attention before it gets new tile. But this time, the blue stuff isn't waterproofing. It's a primer for floor leveling compound. The concrete slab was pretty rough from removing the old tile, so the leveling material will flow into all the nooks and crannies to give it a smooth, flat surface that looks, well, kind of like chocolate milk until it dries. By the time it does, the waterproofing for the shower walls has also dried, so Mark can start setting tile. This board is attached at the height of the second row of tile. That way he can be sure it's level instead of relying on the tub being level. The toothpick spacer seems to be just the right size for the minimal grout lines we're after, and the work goes pretty quick, except for the details around the recessed soap ledge and the plumbing. The accent band also slows Mark down, but after the pace picks back up, you really can start getting an idea of what it'll look like when everything's done. Well, with the shower this far along, I couldn't wait to see what this was going to look like. This is the trim that Artie will use, our plumber, when he comes back. And that really is going to look great. You know, this whole thing is really coming together very well. The mosaic tiles and how we've used that as an accent look perfect. And then once we're able to get the rest of this paper off, we'll really be able to get an idea of what this overall shower will look like. But I can tell already, this shower, this my daughter's, is going to look a lot better than my shower. That doesn't seem right. Hey, check out this week's Best New Product.
A few minutes ago, we saw Artie putting together the pipe in our shower. Now, he had several different types of piping to connect, and he was soldering or sweating the pipes. Now, unless you're a plumber or you do that a lot, sweating or soldering pipes can actually be a little daunting and a little intimidating for the typical homeowner or DIYer. But there's another solution. Check this out. Now, this is a connector by Sharkbite. And the thing that I like best about this, it comes in different styles, meaning you can get it in a T or an elbow or just a straight connector, but it also comes in different sizes depending upon your piping. It works great with copper, with CPVC, and also with PEX piping, but take a look at this. Once you get a nice clean cut on the end of your piping, just push the piping into the connection and look, you've got a strong connection. Now, if you did need to undo it or disconnect it, you just get the little tool that's sold separately, clip it into place, and then just pinch the coupling, and look, you can pull it apart. This is great if you've just got to do a quick repair, or again, the open flame or the flux of just doing soldering is a little more intimidating. This is definitely the way to go.
We're right in the middle of a renovation to my youngest daughter's bathroom this week, and since the space is also used by guests, we're tricking it out a little bit. The focal point of the tub and shower area will be this new surround, and everyone's anxious to get a better look at it. While Mark is peeling off all of the face paper on our accent strip there on the mosaic tile, I'm on cleanup duty here, getting ready to have the glass tiles installed on our floor. Now, this material is really an odd kind of material that the facing is right on the front instead of having backing, which is usually the way a mosaic tile is installed. Usually you put it right down in a thin set adhesive and allow it to dry, and then you're ready to grout. But this has the extra step, just like we're doing here, where you have to put it in place, allow it to dry, then you have to turn around and wet it again in order to peel the facing off. Now, we'll have to do the exact same thing on the floor. But when you think about what the floor will look like, and this being the companion accent strip to it, it's gonna look fantastic. Mark starts by dry fitting several of the sheets to make sure they'll square up well with the walls. It's also a tight space, so he doesn't want to paint himself into a corner. The adhesive for this stuff is applied with a smaller notch trowel. As a general rule, the smaller the tile, the smaller the notches should be in the trowel. Because of the paper facing, it doesn't look like much going down, but I have a feeling it should be very cool once it's all done. When the floor is set, Mark moves back to the shower to apply the grout. The glass accent strips, getting a darker color of grout so it's masked off so he can work on the rest of the area. Applying this stuff to a wall is a little bit trickier than a floor since you can't just dump out a big blob and pushing it around with the float, but the results are worth the effort. Meanwhile, the drywall repair is done out in the powder room area, and Michael the painter is getting the space ready for its next big addition. And this is the bath vanity that started the whole project. My wife and daughter found this online, thought it was perfect. It's been sitting down in the garage for about 3 weeks, so I'm glad we're finally trying to get it in position. It's a pretty nice looking piece. It looks like wood, but we found that the legs are not wood at all, some type of fiberglass, because we had to do a little notching here so that that will push against and rest against the wall, and this will hook over the baseboard. You know, this thing looks just like a piece of furniture you'd have in your bedroom, like a dresser, except it has the top, the granite top, as well as the bowl there, the sink bowl. So should look really, really nice once it's in place, but that's the next challenge, trying to get this big cabinet in that small door. Ready, Mark?
Yep.
All right.
All right, Danny, we gotta be easy now.
It's bedtime to drop by.
Let's come this way, all right? Oh, yeah.
Man, that looks good, doesn't it? No scars. No damage to the walls. Yeah. You got your plumbing tools?
No, sir.
Oh.
Not a plumber.
Call the plumber. Kids sure do love a good fairy tale. That's great for their imaginations, and they hold on to every word. But there are a lot of adults out there who also believe in a few myths, especially when it comes to thinking green. Here's a good example. There are a lot of people up in arms about the mercury content in compact fluorescent light bulbs. Funny thing is, no one has said much about the greater amount of mercury found in those old fluorescent tubes. And the truth of the matter is, the amount of mercury in the first CFLs would fit on the tip of a pencil. The newer generations of compact fluorescents are even more efficient and have only half the amount of mercury. Plus, there are extremely safe methods available now for properly disposing of any burnout or broken CFLs. So, before you start crying wolf, be sure to put down the fairy tales and get the real facts. We started this week out trying to make a basic change to an otherwise attractive bathroom. Add some countertop space around the pedestal sink. Well, it quickly grew into a full-scale renovation, complete with flooring repairs, tile work, plumbing, and the necessary trim work. The result is a bathroom that's very functional for my daughter Emily, who's the primary user, but it's also very beautiful. That doesn't hurt a teenage girl's feelings, and it's very important for the guest who will also use the space. The new surround gives the shower area a rich, old-world feeling, and the glass tiles and the accent strip tie it to the rest of the room nicely because they're also used on the floors. That feeling is enhanced by the new oil-rubbed bronze fixtures, which were installed in both the shower and on the new vanity. The new light fixture works well with that theme, and since the old linen cabinet is gone, the space even seems larger now. It all started with the installation of a simple vanity, and I would have been happy with a smaller one, but this one looks great, and all of the work is just the way we wanted it. Now, if you're doing any kind of bathroom renovation or any kind of work to your house, don't be afraid to let it evolve a little bit, but be prepared to pay for it. Hey, thanks for being with us. I'm Danny Lipford. We'll see you next week here on Today's Homeowner. What's on the horizon for your home in the coming year? Find out next week as we scope out the International Builder Show.